Hello, everyone. I'm Jim Garrison, and I want to welcome you to day 83 of Humanity Rising. Every day since the 22nd of May, Ubiquity University and upwards of 350 partners worldwide have created essentially an open space so that people from all over the world can come together to share their experiences as we all navigate our way through this extraordinary pandemic, which shows no signs of alleviation. We've discussed many aspects over the 83 days. And today we come to a very important milestone. After 83 consecutive days, we're going to take a break. And between the 13th of August and the 31st of August, we will go on holiday and assess and reflect on how we want Humanity Rising to continue as we enter into the fall. We'll begin again on the 1st of September, and every day, then 5 days a week, we will be convening Humanity Rising as we've always done. Because we made a commitment at the very beginning to offer this as a service to humanity for as long as the pandemic lasts. And it's going to continue at least through the end of the year. We all know that. We wondered what was the most opportune way to end our initial phase. And we thought that given the fact that the 12th of August is International Youth Day, it would be appropriate to have our NextGen working group take this session and bring everything to a closure. One of the ways that we started Humanity Rising, those of you who were there will recall, is I went through a thought experiment that if I was dictator for a day, what one choice, if I had one choice, what would I do to radically transform the world? And the conclusion was I would order that within the next 30 days, every government and every organization on planet Earth would be turned over to women in the executive leadership between now and 2030. So we opened Humanity Rising for the first 10 days with just listening to the voices of women. And then we took 7 days and we listened to the voices of youth from all over the world. It was a powerful, inspiring, and deeply moving experience to listen to women and listen to the youth. And only afterwards did we begin to bring men into the conversation, but we had set the stage in a very foundational way. So I want to just note that and to now turn it over to Matt Robertson, who's been on the staff at Ubiquity University and one of our star millennials at the university. And he's been the one who's really been convening with Raji, Jayasinghe, who you'll hear in a few minutes, the NextGen working group. And so, Matt, I want to turn the program now over to you with deep thanks for everything that you and your cohort of young people are bringing into Humanity Rising and for the world.
Thanks so much, Jim. It is an honor to be here, and thank you so much for convening these 83 days of Humanity Rising, which has been just an incredibly inspiring download of so many forward-thinking, future-thinking projects that have inspired us all and invited in so many different perspectives from around the world and age groups. And it's my honor today to be here to open up this NextGen session convening here on August 12th, which also happens to be International Youth Day, as designated by the United Nations. So we have a great panel today where we look forward to introducing everyone to our NextGen 2030 project, which we mentioned at the end of the NextGen Leadership Week, which took place earlier on in the summit. However, before we get started, we usually like to start these NextGen sessions with a creative offering, as well as reading our mission statement. So to move forward with the first of those two items, it's my pleasure today to introduce you to Veronica, who is our registrar here at Ubiquity University, and is also an artist who has offered to share some of her pieces with us today to start us out. So at this point, Vero, I would love to hand it over to you to share some of your artwork. Thanks so much.
Hi everyone, it's a pleasure being here, and thank you very much for this space to share my art. First, I would like to share my bullet journals. These kind of journals are all of them handmade, and this is the first one I have, and I started filling it at the end of 2018. And as you can see, I decorated it only with pencils, and then I started exploring the world of watercolors, and you can see. And now this is my second bullet journal. And here I started to decorate with my own paintings and perfecting the use of trackers to achieve my goals. So I will share that with you. For example, this is my habit tracker, where I put a list of all the habits that I want to develop, and I paint every day that I do that habit. So this is here. And also, as it is my journal, I like to put everything that happens to me every day. And this is something that I paint when we were experiencing political problems here in Bolivia. And here is another habit tracker. And right now I am on my third one, and I'm very proud of it. And I'm very proud of being able to write every day and create this little journal for myself. And this is the third one. And right now I am exploring the scrapbooking world. So I am using these kind of little papers, and I am using a lot of new trackers. This is my habit tracker. This is my sleep tracker, and this is my mood tracker, where I put like how I am feeling every day. And it's an excellent exercise to develop creativity and also to know more about yourself. And after I started this bullet journal thing, I realized how much I love it to create, and I started paintings. And this is let me see. This is a painting that it's called Portrait of a Soul. And I painted it when I decided to cut down on my meat consumption. Also, I have this one. This is the International Space Station in front of the moon. And it shows how small we are in front of the vast universe. That's what I thought when I was painting this. And also I want to share this one. It is inspired by my ancestors. It is the door of the sun in Tiwanaku. It is in Bolivia. It is believed that this is a door to another dimension. It's a very beautiful place. And finally, I want to share with you this painting it is the labyrinth of the Chapel of Chartres in France, and I painted in my desire to go through it and meditate. And it shows the transformation from the trauma. And finally, I also would like to share some of my bookmarks because I also do this kind of bookmarks. They are painted by hand with watercolor color technique. And thank you. That will be all. And I will share the links to my pages if you want to stay tuned. And thank you in advance for the support. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you so much, Vera. Not only is your artwork just stunningly beautiful, but I just absolutely love how you've integrated it into all of these various aspects of your life. The sleep tracker is so cool. The bookmarks and the activism as well as an expression of how you're hoping to live your life. Thank you so much for sharing. We've touched on artwork throughout the duration of the summit, and people learn through multiple intelligences. So to bring this aspect in, I think is not only fitting, but very inspiring to see what you've done. So thank you so much. As I mentioned at the very beginning of our NextGen team formation, we wanted to set forth an intention for how our team was engaging with these larger questions of the summit and how we were organizing ourselves around common principles. And so at this time, I would like to reread the mission statement that we shared each day during the initial NextGen week. And so I'm going to share my screen of the Humanity Rising NextGen Leadership Forum group, which you can find on the Ubiverse. And I'll take this opportunity now to read the mission statement. This rising generation of decision makers and global citizens comes together with the shared understanding that our world is in crisis. We are the largest and most connected generation to ever exist, and we enter these conversations fully aware that our lives and those of our children hinge on the actions we take today. We share the responsibility to identify and implement solutions. We recognize that real change starts with our daily thoughts, interactions, and choices, and that each one of us has a unique role to play in our unfolding story. Lasting and regenerative change can only manifest through our collective intelligence and radical collaboration. Collaboration that is built on a spirit of diversity, tolerance, open-heartedness, and trust. We represent current and future generations in how we live our lives today. We seek to empower each other to author the story we want to live. And we invoke creative solutions to innovate successfully for a more sustainable and resilient planetary society. And if you haven't joined the Humanity Rising NextGen Leadership Forum, you can find it as a subgroup of the main Humanity Rising group on the platform. And we warmly welcome your participation across all age ranges as we support our young leaders in today's day and age to live the lives they would like to live and make the world a better place. At this moment, I would like to begin introducing the NextGen2030 Project, which is the content of our presentation today. And to do so, I will begin to share a short introduction to the project. So as many of you recall, we had a NextGen Leadership Week that took place during the beginning of June, and we called on over 40 young leaders from around the world to give presentations on their vision for a future planetary society. We heard about a variety of different topics: green business, personal empowerment, health and well-being, transformative education, and intergenerational wisdom exchange, among other things. And one of our goals for this project was that we wanted to represent this total vision that was put forth throughout this week of young leaders sharing, and create it as a coherent plan for how our young people and society at large could move forward over the next 10 years to try and achieve our goals for a more thriving, just, and sustainable world by 2030. And as we engaged this group of young leaders, we noticed that there was a common theme that we were all bringing up, which was actually more focused less on the visions of what we wanted to put forth and more about what those visions meant for our lives now. That question of what can I do now really rose to the surface. And so we decided that we wanted to focus this project on really clarifying and making tangible what actions we can take in our everyday lives that can help further these global goals and frameworks that are being worked on and put forth by organizations around the world. There's a number of incredible organizations that have put forth really beautiful visions for what needs to happen over the next 10 years. The SDG 2030 agenda, the codes for a healthy earth, which is one that we've heard of here on this summit, of course, previously, the wheel of creation. These are all frameworks that we've actually drawn inspiration from to help chart what the vision statements were that we wanted to work with, and therefore what actions we could develop to help those visions become a reality. And what we did was we drew the visions from these organizations and we worked to present them within an integral framework. And I won't say too much about an integral framework now, as I'll turn it over to Raji, who can explain a little bit more about it. But an integral framework is part of our holistic approach to education that we use at Ubiquity. And so we thought that it would be a good way to segment and help clarify these big visions. So at this point, what I'd like to do is introduce you to the project website. We are thrilled to have created a web page for this project. You can find it at NextGen2030.com. And this is our first draft of the NextGen 2030 vision. It is a work in progress, but we're very excited to have this together for you today to introduce you to what we've done so far and what we hope to unfold in the future. And at this point, I would just like to give kudos to one of our website technicians, Katie Timaschuk, who has been an incredible help in putting together this design. She's not able to be here with us today, but everything that you see here will be something that she's helped put together for us. So our main framework that we've used is the wheel of creation. And the wheel of creation you can see here on the left is a framework of 12 sectors that represent what we felt were the main constituents of a planetary society. I'll just read them quickly. Learning and education, communication and media, art and culture, economics and business, peace building and relations, justice and governance, health and wellness, food, water and environment, infrastructure and resources, science and technology, and religion and spirituality. So as you can see here, we've used this as our macro framework, and we've pulled vision statements in from existing organizations, from ones that we've created ourselves for each of these various sections. Now you can see here, NextGen 2030 vision. What actions can we take in our everyday lives to help create a thriving, just, and sustainable planetary society? This is the question we set out to answer. NextGen 2030 uses the wheel of creation to integrate the SDG 2030 agenda, the codes for a healthy Earth, and our own vision statements within an integral framework. Our goal is to connect these large visions and long-term goals with tangible actions that individuals and communities can take now. Using the integral framings of personal inner, personal outer, collective inner, and collective outer, we hope to clarify how each vision statement can be translated into every area of our lives. Now, this is not a functionality that exists yet, but eventually on the website, we look forward to inviting you to vote for the existing actions that you've taken in your own life so far, as well as submit new actions that you're taking in your life that are not already represented to help build a global library of integral actions and resource center, so that this is a place where one can come to find a sector that they're interested in and find tangible solutions and actions that we can take in everyday lives to contribute to helping us reach these goals. So welcome to the NextGen 2030 Vision Project, and we look forward to taking action with you. And you can see that the way that we have this organized is with each of the sectors represented. And when you click in to each one of these sections, the content for that section within the integral framework will appear. And you can see not only the vision statements, but the integral actions as well. So we'll move forward now with just a brief summary of the integral framework to give you some background about what it is and why we've organized it in this way. And in order to do that, I will pass it back over to Raji, as well as pull up the integral framework diagram. So thank you so much. And Raji, over to you to explain the integral framework. Thank you.
Thanks, Matt, and hello, everyone. It's great to be here. I'm just going to take a hopefully not so dry 2 minutes to just explain the integral framework. Many of you on this session probably know what it is already, but for those of you who aren't, it's important that I explain it because everything we've done is based on the integral framework. So as you can see on your screen, the integral framework is essentially split into 4 quadrants. The quadrants sort of describe 4 different perspectives from which we can view reality. And of course, the theory is that if we can view reality from all these perspectives as far as possible, then we have a very holistic view of the world. And by association, it means we'll make better decisions for ourselves and for our societies. So how this is set up is that the model takes 2, what I would say are essential characteristics about the world, and it combines them into these 4 quadrants. So the 2 essential characteristics is simply the idea of individual and collective. If you just think about it, you'll see that reality isn't comprised of just one big atom, right? It's atoms, a bunch of which create molecules, a bunch of which create cells, a bunch of which create humans, a bunch of which create societies. So that's sort of how the world is structured. And so that's one of the core principles that this uses. And so basically, if you look at, let's just go through each of the quadrants. And if you look at upper left, that refers to the individual. So the top 2 quadrants that you see are the individual ones. So for upper left on individual, we're looking at individuals and we're also looking at the internal. What we mean by that is sort of your own experience, your subjective experience. Right? And when I say subjective, it means, for example, my feelings or my emotions, right? It's something I feel. It's something I experience. It's not something that you could verifiably experience for me or even experience for yourself. It's my own, it's interior. If you go to the upper right, then we look at individual, but we look at exterior, right? Which essentially means your behavior. How do you show up in the world? How do you speak, for example? Or what actions do you take as an individual? Then we move to the lower left. And this now we're looking at collectives. So the two lower quadrants are collectives, which means we're looking at, for example, societies, right? But we're looking at, again, the individual or the subjective to that society. So a really good example for that is culture, right? I'm a Sri Lankan and we have a different set of cultural practices to other places in the world. But each of the individuals within that collective, within that Sri Lankan culture, share those same sets of values. So when we consider the lower left quadrant, we're considering those kinds of collective but subjective aspects. And then finally, in the lower right, we're looking at the collective, but the external, so the objective. What can everyone see? And that's quite simple because we're looking at roads and buildings and anything that we see out there that human society has created. So this is the basic explanation of the four quadrants. And when we speak about this more, I think it will become clearer to people that haven't quite gotten the hang of it just yet. But what we've done with our framework is to organize our actions for the world into these four quadrants. So you'll see how that works as we move forward. Thanks, Matt.
Thanks so much, Raji. And at this point, we would like to show as an example 4 of these sections and how we've mapped the actions that we've come up with to this integral framework, drawing on the inspirations from these various organizations. So you can see here on the website that each of these sections has its own page. And Raji, what we'd like to do is go ahead and start with you, with introducing the learning and education section to walk us through how the vision statements link to your actions. And within these 4 sections, what we'll also do is we'll share some personal stories about how each one of us has taken these actions that we're sharing and had a meaningful experience in our everyday life that has contributed to our efforts for these goals. So Raji, I will toss it back to you for the learning and education section.
Thanks, Matt. So I guess the best way for me to start this little story is to tell you a little bit about what I do. I'm Sri Lankan. I was born and raised in Sri Lanka, so I went through the education system here. But I also had the opportunity to study in America as well as Singapore. So I've experienced quite a few different systems of education, which I think has informed my views on this subject. But I will speak specifically to Sri Lankan education system, which, as I mentioned, I've been through myself, but also as a teacher now, I interact with all the time. So I have a sense of how the system works and what its strengths and weaknesses are. One of the big weaknesses I see, and I speak from experience for Sri Lanka and I think for South Asia as a whole, but I'm sure some of the things I say will apply to other places around the world as well. But certainly in South Asia, our education system through high school is completely exam focused. Your entire future depends on your exam marks, which means syllabuses are geared completely towards students just getting the best marks they can in exams versus learning the things that they actually should or experiencing the things that they actually should during school. Because exams are so important, it becomes a fact that students don't have in their syllabuses important subjects in things like the soft skills, which is something I teach because I feel strongly about this subject. They don't teach students things like emotional intelligence or critical thinking or team building skills or mindfulness, all skills which are very important for us to succeed in this world. And so what I've sort of seen through working with a lot of students is that this system, it does two things. It prevents people from discovering or pursuing their passion. And then it also kind of stifles them from understanding what their real strengths are. And I've seen that happen a lot. So I think one of the things that I've actually done for myself, and I think that individuals can do, so now I'm looking at the top left quadrant, because I believe that it's really important for our students, whether they do it for themselves or whether they do it through a syllabus, for them to investigate their personal learning styles and their interests and their abilities and understand exactly what their strengths and their weaknesses are. Right now, that isn't happening because they're in a system that tells them they have to study XYZ, which means they have to memorize a bunch of stuff they don't necessarily care about or are good at. And you end up just sort of factory churning out the same person and completely sapping out the creative and unique potential that each of these human beings actually has. So to give you an example of one of the simple steps that an individual can take, which I've done myself, if you just look at point 1, is to just take your Myers-Briggs or your Enneagram or your Big 5 personalities test, your Strengths Finder, any such personality test, if you take the proper personality test, can really help you have some insights about yourself and help to spur some thinking about what you should be doing with your life and where your passions are and where your strengths are. So that's just one example. That's something I've done for myself, and it's something I encourage my students to do. Let me switch to the next segment, or the next quadrant rather, which I've chosen just for no reason really, but let's look at the bottom right quadrant, so the collective outer. And the reason I actually picked this is because, okay, if we address the individual interior and we have students that now understand what their passions are and understand what their powers are, we still need to have a system that acknowledges those strengths and acknowledges those skills. And right now we don't have that necessarily either, because students are stuck in a system where they have to pass these exams because in the outside world, that's all that's accepted. Companies in this part of the world, at least, don't necessarily give enough credence to human skills, to soft skills, to unique skills. They're not necessarily valued by workplaces. So how can we really expect students to value those kinds of things and develop those kinds of things in themselves? So that's why I look immediately at point number 1 and say that we need to develop as a society an education system that is holistic and that educates the whole person. A system that honors and rewards students for all their skills, not just topics of study, but their human skills. And I might as well read point 3, which is to say that the system of education should also integrate not just future innovation, but past wisdom and planetary mindset. So I will leave it at that. I hope that, it was interesting to listen to, but that also you got a sense of how we have tried in this exercise to have 4 vision statements, 1 each that applies to each quadrant: personal inner, personal outer, collective inner, and collective outer. And then tried to give action points for people in each of those quadrants to actually be able to take in order to move us quickly towards the goals that we have for 2030. I hope I didn't drone on too long, Matt, but that's me. Matt, can you hear us? All right, no worries. Until you get your volume back on, I understand that the next person that we have to present their little piece will be Vero. So Vero, why don't you go ahead and begin your presentation? Love to hear from you.
Thank you so much, Raji. First of all, thank you again for the opportunity to be here. And my name is, Veronica Saldias, and I am Bolivian, and I am Registrar at Ubiquity University. I studied industrial engineering, and I have my artistic entrepreneurship.
Turned off my Wi-Fi.
Okay, thank you very much, Matt and Raji, for explaining the foundation of this project that we have been working on with a lot of love and dedication. Thanks to Shelot, Katie, and Carlos too. Today, I want to talk about art and culture and why they are so important for the creation of a better world. And this will be explained by two of the vision statements I consider are the first steps to integrate art and culture in our society. Those are first, investigate and develop your creative capacities by exploring various mediums, and two, take steps to share your art and culture with others and to learn about the art and cultures of others and that of previous generations. And the integral actions that I want to propose to make these wonderful vision statements to reality are first, recognize your ability to create and allow yourself to flow on that path. And second, share your art because you don't know how many people you can inspire to start being creative. So now I would like to share a personal story about why I choose these integral actions. So I grew up in a big house here in Bolivia where my parents, my brothers, uncles, and cousins, and grandparents lived together. All of them were my mom's family. And this is so Bolivian. It is very common here to live all together in a house. So my grandparents lived in the country, and it was very difficult for them to settle in the city and provide an education for my mother and uncles. Only half of them were able to go to college. And my generation had the opportunity to receive a very good education and to have access to go to college. I consider myself as a good student, and I have always got good grades, I think. I remember loved literature, and I remember that I was creative in all my plastic arts tasks. And I also grew up surrounded by my uncles talking about books and singing concerts for the family, not because music or art were their majors, but just because they loved sharing this with us every day. And also, I saw my grandfather write books and sell paintings beside his teaching career. However, I never knew for sure what my passion was at that point. And when I graduated from high school without much confidence in myself, I decided to go to college with industrial engineering as my major. And in the last year of university, I got involved with a leadership organization called ISEC, in which I got to know myself better, and I became president of my city for this organization. And during my term, I had the opportunity to travel and represent my country, Bolivia. And that was very powerful because it was there when I fell in love and took pride in my roots and my culture, and realized that as a Bolivian, I could achieve any goal, and that my roots were from people who were authentic, respectful of the earth and nature, and extremely creative. So after graduating with honors in industrial engineering and finishing my ISEC journey, I started a journal because being so busy and I suddenly had a lot of free time. So it was a good time for me to reflect on my experience and above all to decide what could I do to contribute to my country and the world and what will be my next steps. So the journal started as a personal space where I could write those thoughts, and it began to be the space where I could also be creative. It accompanied me during the next 2 years of my life, where many things happened. I got married, I moved from my parents' home, and I started an adult life in which I lost myself. I was working in places that I hated, which had no great purpose to help or change the world. I was busy trying to make enough to pay rent. But that day came when I couldn't take it anymore, and with the support of my husband, I decided to let go of everything, resign, and find a place where I can work for a greater purpose and where I can be happy. So my journal at that time had evolved into a bullet journal, which is a personalized organization system in which you design your own journal by hand with tracking tools that help you achieve your goals. And I had been sharing it on an Instagram page that I created, but without much insight, just to have a record for myself. And suddenly, I stopped looking for work and began to dedicate myself more to that and to blog on the internet. That time helped me realize how much I loved creating. And it was there. All this time, art had been there accompanying me and helping me to survive and to find myself. When I finally recognized my ability to create, and when I allowed myself to flow on that path, which is one of the integral actions we are proposing in this project, everything in my life changed. I started sharing my art with more enthusiasm with others and with more confidence and with more love. And in my pursuit to improve what I was sharing, I started exploring more and I found myself painting. And I didn't know I was able to do that. I was an engineer, not an artist, until I decided that I am an artist. Maybe I didn't study art, but it was my super creative power, and I wasn't going to deny it anymore. And that is why I firmly believe that all human beings have the ability to create. And it is very important to connect with this, because this is what will lead us to our purpose and to be more ourselves. Art allowed me to be more sensitive, to be more empathetic, to be more human. And today I realize that it made me tune into creative people full of that desire to create and transmit. I think that being here and working at Ubiquity University and being part of this NextGen team is part of this journey, because we were creating new educational opportunities in which the wisdom and development of people are explored to create a better world. See, we are creating together. So art makes me happy because it helped me to find myself. Now I see that the world is full of people that don't love what they are doing, that they are stuck in everyday routine. And the result will be people doing things without purpose, people not being aware, people not feeling. If all the people in this world could find their creative power, I am sure we will have a healthier and a more sensitive society, and that's what the world needs right now. And I need to clarify something. People think that creativity is only related to art, but it's not. You may have your creative power related to building furniture or creating a song or teaching new ways to learn, and all of them are also art. And once you deliver that into others, it becomes part of the culture. Art and culture is something that transmits what we are. Like this chair, I don't know if you can see me, but the chair I am using right now, my dad built it using an old car seat, and now it is the most comfortable desk chair. And he was expressing himself in this, and he was creative to recycle that, and I think that is cool, and now it's part of my family culture. In June 2019, last year, I started selling my paintings and I started to be more consistent with my art and how I share it with the world, always looking to make it sustainable. And that is my part. I hope that as a result of that, more people around me tune into their creative power. I hope that everyone can start that project that fills them with purpose and help to create a healthy society that will build a better world. We need more happy and creative people. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you so much, Vera. I couldn't agree more about art making. And let's move right along now to our next presenter. And I'm very excited to introduce Shelot Masitihi. And so Shelot, I think I'll let you introduce yourself, but Shelot has joined our NextGen team. She found us through the summit, and we are incredibly blessed to have her work and energy here on this project. She is an author, a poet, an entrepreneur, an activist, and a student of psychology from South Africa. So Shelot, thanks so much for being here. We look forward to hearing a little bit about you and your section. I think you're still on mute.
Oh, thank you, Matt. Hi, everyone. I'm Shelot Masitihi, born and bred in South Africa in the rural villages in a place called Chiramba. And I'm going to talk about communication and media and the integral vision statements that I would like to share with you today. Matt, can I actually be able to read? The first one will be fully embody the values of honesty and productive communication to build and not destroy. And the second one is use our communication channels to inform citizens everywhere about the global and local challenges, systemic causes, existing solutions and initiatives and networks from all sectors dedicated to personal, collective, and planetary healing and transformation. And the actions that we can take to think critically, to form our own judgments and assessments, and develop and support communication technologies for vulnerable communities. Since I'm from South Africa and from the rural villages, I would actually speak more from where I come from. It is easy to manipulate information, and it's when you're from the rural villages, information that actually comes from someone who knows better or someone who's more educated and has the resources to acquire information, when it literally gets to you or to the people in the villages who do not have more advanced communication devices or means of communications, or who are not even literate enough to read, when information actually gets to them already manipulated and they get information that is fully or half true, and the consequences are we find ourselves in situations where we actually fighting or losing interest in certain things or missing important things, like let's say classes, because like now in terms of during this pandemic, we attending classes online, and a student who's in the villages and doesn't have network and doesn't have gadgets to actually use to attend classes, it is very difficult for them to actually get to learn and know everything that is happening in the classroom as other students are experiencing right now. And for me as a person, what do I do to actually help another person or a student to actually, get to learn or get to know, to get the full information about what is happening in classes and schools? So if we think critically and to form our own judgments, we shouldn't just read things and form our conclusions from what we see on social media, because what we see on social media can actually be what we see in social media can actually be true or not true, because misinformation travels faster than the truth. Especially in terms of this coronavirus, with this COVID-19, there has been so many conspiracy theories about certain things, and then others. I remember back when in March, during the outbreak of coronavirus, and then there has to the lockdown here in South Africa started towards the end of March, and there was a video circulating on social media, especially on WhatsApp, of a footage or maybe a clip video from a movie shooting that they saw ENCA saw a dragon flying over some city in Johannesburg, and everybody was so confused and living in fear. Instead of us actually comforting each other at that time and finding ways and to cope and how to actually get to come together to do certain things like solve solutions for education, since our schools were closed down. People were scared. Nobody wanted to go out. Nobody wanted to actually do anything. Nobody wanted to even look at the news, because like the whole scenario was like devastating, and people and you as a person, when you actually share information, why would you share information that you haven't verified? So I think if we actually think before we share things, and then we actually collaborate to actually develop and support new communication technologies within vulnerable societies, that would be a better solution for us all within a society. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Shelot. And for our final section, what I'd like to do is present our section on economics and business. And the reason why I chose this section on economics and business is because I feel that economics and business is one of the primary lenses through which we can interpret our global challenges, as well as understand how we move in the world and what might be possible in terms of transforming our way that we walk through life. And the vision statements that I'd like to share today relate to the personal sections. It's been very inspiring to listen to the recent summit sessions on donut economics, regenerative economics. And so I wanted to focus more on the personal today and how we relate to economics, business, and money. And so for the first vision statement, the personal inner reads, reflect on personal spending habits and how they align with your goals for personal and planetary thriving. And the first action that we can take here is really reflecting on your own value system and how it aligns with your spending habits and financial goals. And the story that I'd like to share today is from my time at Naropa University. I've always been one in my own personal journey to really seek out transformative learning opportunities. Meditation, personal growth, understanding the nature of our minds and consciousness has always been one of my passions. And that passion took me to a small liberal arts school in Boulder, Colorado, called Naropa University, that is actually Buddhist inspired. It was founded by a Tibetan meditation master by the name of Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche, who grew up as the lineage holder in the Kagyu lineage of Tibetan Buddhism. And during my tenure at the university, one of my roles was working in the development office, working to help with fundraising and institutional advancement. And I came from a recruitment background. And one of the things that I did to prepare myself for this new role was read a book by Lynn Twist. Many of you might be familiar with it. It's titled The Soul of Money. And what I really took away from this book was that money can be a source of thriving and generation and creating something together that is bigger than oneself. And it really began my journey of reflecting on and redefining my own relationship with money itself. Within the fundraising world, it really helped me understand money and asking money from others, which can be a difficult and challenging experience within a transformative perspective. Instead of really being across the table from someone and trying to get resources or money out of them. Really the reframing that this book took for me within my job was to really work to identify people's personal interests and to identify the larger vision that we might be able to partner in and work to create together. One of the terms that's widely used as a reflection of our current system is this idea of a scarcity mindset, that we're always needing more in order to be happy, in order to achieve our goals. And this book for me really helped me shift out of a scarcity mindset of never having enough, never enough resources or money to do the things that we wanted to do, to really look at the act of giving our resources. And when we think about human nature, generosity and giving is one of those things that makes us feel really good. Giving without the expectation of return, giving unconditionally, helping, and the energetics of that. So giving people the opportunity to give was a theme that I took as a fundamental approach to the world of fundraising. We see this show up in so many different ways. I noticed this in my life when, let's say I do something for someone and they say, thank you. Thank you for the effort that you've put in here. Thank you for doing this for me, or your energy. And how often my immediate reaction is, no, thank you, right? And what I've really worked to do is actually take a pause, recognize that energy of giving, and simply say, you're welcome. And honor that exchange, that natural give and take that is core to our human nature. And so this approach began to actually integrate into my life outside of fundraising. How can money be a tool that can be deployed for human thriving? How can we take money and begin to relate to it outside of our current framework of really needing it for human survival, working to meet your needs, to have enough money to pay rent, and this treadmill that can feel so oppressive at times. And it really began to shift my understanding as money representing energy and an opportunity to further my own personal goals for human thriving, both personally and collectively. And so this relates to the second vision statement, which is personally invest only in that which protects and regenerates life, and disinvest from any and all enterprises that harm or could harm life. And so the personal outer action that I selected was number 2, use your spending to support mission-aligned brands, products, and services. And the example of this in my life is actually occurring right now. I'm tuning in today from San Miguel de Allende, Mexico, in the state of Guanajuato. And it's an incredible little city. And it's been fascinating and somewhat heartbreaking to see how our current global situation of the pandemic, like in many other places, has really devastated the local economy. And so one of the things that I've been trying to do since I've been here is to support local organic brands, farmers markets, but not only just food, but also these other areas in my life that relate to sustainable consumption. So things like, what kind of toothpaste and toothbrushes am I using? What kinds of clothes am I purchasing? And just to share a little bit personally, you know, some of the things that I've had going on in my life related to health and wellness is I've always had dry skin and irritation, and polyester actually doesn't help that. So I've been looking for local 100% cotton or hemp clothing that are hopefully made from people around the area, perhaps beyond. But it's really looking for those brands that support our aspirations for a more sustainable and regenerative world. And here's what I noticed was that not just investing because I liked those brands made a difference in my life, but actually the results I got from investing in those brands and those products, the food that I ate, the clothes that I purchased, actually helped me become a better person myself. I became healthier. I felt more clear and able to handle the ups and downs of life. I was able to help account for the skin stuff that I was dealing with here. San Miguel is about a mile high. And so I began to view money as a way to really invest in my own human thriving and also supporting those organizations who were working on that in their own way, dedicated to sustainable and regenerative principles. And so I began to see this relationship between the individual and the collective, that we're not just supporting these organizations for the sake of supporting organizations that embrace these principles, but we're doing it because it also, at its root, is fundamental to our own human thriving as individuals. And I just wanted to appreciate one of the comments that I saw earlier about someone who was noting the idea that the concept or the act or the state of love was not represented in the wheel of creation. And it just struck me because as I began to think about money, economics, business, my own personal work, and how I move in the world and make an attempt to support organizations that are aligned with the kind of world that I want to live in, that actually everything I do, whether it's giving my energy to a job or making a purchase decision, fundamentally it's about that glue that brings us all together and wants the best, not only for ourselves, but for other people. And so I began through working on this section to really play with these ideas of gratitude and love within this larger framework that can be so dry of money, finance, and economics. So it's a bit unpolished. I'm still working on refining that relationship in my life, but I felt that it's been worthy of my reflection and contemplation about my own relationship with money. And just to say, I find myself in an incredibly privileged position in life. You know, when you don't have enough money to support your survival needs, there's not much room for thinking about money in other ways. You have to do what you have to do to survive. And I think that that's part of this approach, this new approach to money, to life, to energy that we can have with these themes, is that with our own positions, with our own ways and lifestyles, we can move with love and hoping to support systems, brands, organizations that will actually create a better world, way of life for everyone, to really move beyond this idea of money as sustenance. And the final theme I'll say is, and again, this is a bit unpolished, but I'm very excited at the possibility for technology to help facilitate humanity's approach to their survival. You know, we tend to work for money to meet our survival needs. And if we begin to develop systems of technology that can help us meet our survival in other ways, then we can free up this incredible human potential and creativity, and therefore value in the economy to really focus on human thriving in other ways as well. So that's something that I look forward to contemplating more. I think with that, I'll say just one or two more things about this project and then open it up to the rest of our panelists to see if they have any other comments before we begin to close our session today. And that's just about the future of this website. As you've seen here, this is a work in progress. This is our first approach to this NextGen project and integral framework. We have very much appreciated everyone's comments. We look forward to reviewing them and integrating them as we continue to refine what we do here. We invite your continued participation and suggestions through the NextGen leadership group. And really what we're hoping to do is make this as interactive as possible. So you'll see here that within each of these sections, we have a number of actions. And we hope to build in a functionality where as you peruse the different integral actions that are listed here, that you can actually vote on the actions that you've taken in your life. And as more and more people engage the project, we'll be able to see a real-time map of people from all over the world who are engaging different aspects of this framework. But not only that, this is just a reflection of our group and those of the young leaders who have contributed to this vision beforehand. And there are so many solutions and organizations that are taking off today that have been not only in operation for a while, but reinvigorated by global events. And we want to give people an opportunity to create testimonials for what's working for them in their life, in their area. Perhaps the same solutions look differently in different continents and different regions. And so there will be an ability to actually come in and create your testimonial, make your offering for other actions that you've taken in your life that can add to this global library. And finally, we want to make this a resource center. So for example, as Raji mentioned in his section, taking personality tests, we hope to generate a library of organizations, websites, resources that will actually be connected to each one of these actions, so that these aren't just static ideas that you can read and adopt how you'd like, but they're actually links and references to things that are going on in the world now in real time that you can take advantage of and be connected with. Not only through this project, but through the Ubiverse platform as well. So thank you so much. That does end the different presentation of these various sections. We hope that you found them digestible, understandable, inspiring, hopefully. And before we actually move to close, I just wanted to open up to say thank you and open up to our different panelists for their presentations and see if there were any other comments that they wanted to make before we close the session today. What do you think? Anything, Shelot, Vero, or Raji?
Sorry. Thank you very much for the opportunity to be being part of the team. I really enjoyed working together with all of you in this project. And I am very excited because this is something that is in process and we are going to keep working on this. So, and thank you very much to all that, to everyone that are here listening. We really appreciate all your inputs and comments. Thank you.
Hey, this is George from the background. I just want to thank everyone, all the people attending Humanity Rising every single day. You guys have been amazing, very inspiring to read the comments all the time. And yeah, also thanks so much to Kat for always doing these amazing transcriptions. You're really a star. And so we're looking forward to see you again at the 1st of September.
Thanks so much, Georg. And yes, thanks, Vero. Thank you so much for your participation, Raji and Shelot. And indeed, just to echo Georg, thank you so much for this community that convenes here every day and is engaging with these questions with our project. There's a number of us here who have asked how to follow up with this project. We look forward to keeping our community abreast of the latest updates through our email list, where we'll include links to the website, an invitation to join the Ubiverse group, as well as an open solicitation of your ideas and suggestions in the spirit of radical collaboration. So thank you so much. I hope that you enjoy your summer hiatus, and we look forward to resuming in September with already an incredible lineup of future speakers, projects, and organizations. Thanks so much, everyone. Back to you, Jim.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Veronica, Shelot, Raji. What an inspiring session. You know, Jim Hickman and I, who's really the co-founder of Ubiquity and a partner of mine for many, many years, over 35 years, we came into Ubiquity, or what became Ubiquity in 2005, and we've recently transitioned our configuration of leadership. And we set as a goal that we wanted to be replaced by a overwhelming majority of women in executive leadership. We wanted the global team to be mostly global, non-American, and we wanted to have millennials to be about a third of the global team. And you're seeing with Matt and Veronica and Raji, the caliber of young people that we've attracted to Ubiquity. And that's the leadership of the future. And so I just want to just note with great pride and appreciation what Matt and Veronica and Raji and other millennials are bringing to the Ubiquity team and to the Humanity Rising endeavor. As Matt indicated, Katie has been a brilliant graphic designer. And so that's been also part of it. So thank you all for that. I also want to thank Georg as we close out here. Georg Bach has been just worth his weight in gold. I mean, anybody who can handle 83 days of Zoom technology almost flawlessly should stand up and take a big bow. So Georg, thank you. And echo Haber. I don't know, Georg, or whether we can get you, but every day, that is.
Jim, you're breaking up.
We've discussed.
Can't hear you. Matt, can you still hear Jim? He froze to me.
Yeah, I think using his data out
Yeah,
there in Paris and may
Jim
have
actually
broken
didn't
up.
have real internet, so
Yeah.
he was there. We were lucky to have him while it lasted. Of course, when he starts talking positively about me, everything stops working. But excellent. Well, thank you, Jim. And Matt, I think the floor is yours.
Okay, well, I think we were beginning to wrap it up, so I think we'll go ahead and continue in that direction. Maybe Jim will be back in a few moments, but for now, just wanted to say again, thank you for all the participants for this NextGen team here. We look forward to being in touch. Enjoy your summer break. We look forward to seeing you in September. Thanks, everyone.